Black Magic Entertainment presents The Magic Within, written by Joe Black, read by Joe Black, all rights reserved. The Magic Within, Joe's Path of Survival and Discovery. Disclaimer: the names of the people in this autobiography have been changed to protect their identities. Prologue. Let me start by saying something straight. I'm no saint, and honestly, I doubt anyone besides my mother ever thought I was. My ex-wives, they definitely wouldn't call me that. So if you're reading this expecting some kind of a redemption story or moral lesson, let me stop you right there. This isn't about painting my life as some sort of grand, tragic, or heroic tale. It's just my life, as I saw it. What I'm sharing here is not meant to convince you that I'm a good person or a bad human. I'm certainly not here to preach about right and wrong. What I am doing is telling the truth, at least my version of it. I guess I'm writing this more for myself than anyone else, as some kind of therapy, a way to make sense of things. You could call it a way to process, to confront the messes I've made and the demons I still wrestle with. We all have those demons, don't we? I'm not pretending that my struggles are any worse than yours. We all go through battles. I still fight mine every day. And who knows? Maybe one day I'll win. Maybe that's what life is. A series of challenges, never ending until the story is done. You get through one and another pops up, waiting for you. Life never really lets you rest long. At least, not until it doesn't anymore. If you stick with me through these pages, maybe you'll recognize some of your own trials in my story. Maybe you'll even learn something to help you from my mistakes. What I hope most is that you get something out of it. Even if it's just the understanding that none of us really know what the hell we're doing most of the time. We're all just trying to figure it out, stumble through, and make sense of the chaos. I'm going to be brutally honest here, but I want to acknowledge something about honesty up front. Truth is a slippery thing. It's shaped by perspective, by how we see the world and how the world sees us. I've known plenty of people who struggle with the truth, and I think I understand why. Sometimes it's hard to even know what the truth is. Life is messy, contradictory, and colored by the angle you're looking from. Let me give you an example. Recently, I saw two photos of the same moment. The Prince of Wales standing in front of a crowd. In one shot taken from the side, it looked like he was flipping the crowd off, middle finger raised and everything. The expression on his face didn't quite match the gesture, which made it all the more confusing. Then right next to it, there was another photo taken head on. This time, it was clear he wasn't flipping off the crowd at all. He was showing off his new wedding ring. Same moment, two completely different perspectives and interpretations. I've learned that life is a lot like that. The same event can seem completely different depending on where you're standing when it happens. From one angle, someone's a hero. From another, they're a villain. And maybe when you read this book, you'll find yourself seeing me through one of these two lenses. Maybe you'll think I'm just another jerk. Or maybe you'll see something redeemable. Either way, that is on you. I'm just here to tell you what happened, from where I stood. Trying to sum up a lifetime in a single book isn't easy. There's no way I can capture every moment, but I'll try to cover the ones that matter the most. Some of these moments I am proud of, others not so much. I've made my share of bad choices, ones that have cost me dearly, but I want to make one thing clear. I'm not here to make excuses or to beg for forgiveness. I'm not a good man, not a bad man, just a man. Nothing more. I'm a regular guy who's tried his best, screwed up along the way, and is still trying to figure it out. So if you're looking for a neat story about redemption or some grand moral arc, you might want to pick up another book. But if you're curious about what it's like to be just a man, living an imperfect life, struggling through the mess like everyone else, then keep reading. This is my story. No more, no less. The Magic Within, Chapter 1. I suppose most people think about writing their life story before they die. For me, it seems I missed that deadline. Not just because I'm late in starting this, but because, well, I already passed away. Yes, you read that right. I died. I don't think too many people can boast about telling the story after they've left this world. Now, for most, death is the closing chapter, the full stop at the end of the book. But I've always heard that endings are just new beginnings, and I really hope that's true. Either we go on after this life in some new form, or we don't. I guess that's something we'll all find out eventually. But let me not jump ahead. Every story needs a proper beginning, and I think you'll want to hear how I got to the point where my life ended. To start with, I was born 2 weeks early. Not quite a premature birth, but early enough that I was very small. I was the first child of a middle-class family in Seattle, Washington. The oldest child is often the experimental child for parents, an unintentional guinea pig, as they figure out what being a mom and dad actually means. Is this just a grandiose theory? Well, I may have proved it to be true from the moment I entered this world. I shocked my parents right out of the gate. Most parents pray for a healthy baby, and for mine, that prayer turned into immediate concern. Moments after I was born, the doctor noticed something was wrong. My right arm bore a bright red raised ring of bunched skin encircling the middle of my forearm. It was alarming, but after a careful examination, the doctor determined that despite the odd deformity, my arm worked just fine. No emergency surgeries or treatments were needed, and I would heal in time. The doctor had a theory about what caused the ring of discolored tissue. He believed my arm had been broken in the womb, long before I ever took my first breath. My mother wasn't exactly surprised by this idea. She actually thought she had a pretty good idea of when it had probably happened as well. That spring, she had been walking 2 dogs for my grandmother, one large, one small. She was about 6 months pregnant with me at the time. It was a sunny, peaceful day, and everything was going fine until the small dog, hyper as ever, started running circles around her legs, wrapping her up in the leash. Just as she tried to untangle herself, the large dog took off after something, dragging her forward. With her legs tied together, she fell hard onto her stomach. The pain was sharp, but after a short self-examination, she was sure she was all right. Her concern quickly turned to me, the child inside of her. She couldn't be sure one way or the other if I had been injured or not. So she kept a careful eye on my movements in the days that followed. I still kicked now and then, so she assumed I was probably all right. When she saw my arm for the first time, though, she knew I had been hurt. And while the injury wasn't life-threatening, it was a reminder that even before I was born, I had already survived my first brush with death. The Reaper would make several visits to me over the years. This was just the first. It almost seemed like he was in a hurry to take me for some unforeseen reason that still eludes me to this day. Some people might say I received a rough start in life, breaking my arm before I ever saw the light of day. But I prefer to think of it slightly differently. I survived. I could have died right then and there, and this story would have been over before it began. But I made it through my first meeting with the Reaper. though it wouldn't be my last. To this day, I still carry the mark of that first dance with death. A large strawberry birthmark still circles my right arm, a faint echo of that early trauma. Fortunately, I never had any trouble with that arm itself. If the birthmark weren't there, I probably wouldn't even know that anything had ever happened. I'd say I was lucky. For now, anyway.